There is a different kind of rebellion that took place in Ferguson that erupted on August 10th, one day after 18-year-old Michael Brown was gunned down by a white cop, Darren Wilson, that not only captured national attention, but global attention, from occupied Palestine to London to Moscow and every other place. And this rebellion took place not only because of this individual atrocity that happened on August 9th, but because of the systemic epidemic of police brutality and the militarized occupations of oppressed communities in this country. This heroic rebellion, as you could tell by the voices of the youth shown in the video, was a result of so much pent-up frustration and anger by black youth who have been humiliated, demonized, criminalized, and abused mentally and physically by the police, who are the real outside agitators. Just think about it. Who would have ever guessed that a rebellion would have taken place in Ferguson, Missouri? The rebellion could have easily taken place right here in New York City, whether Brooklyn, the Bronx, Harlem, or even in Staten Island, or even in Los Angeles, Chicago, Detroit, or other major urban areas. But instead, it happened in a small suburb of St. Louis, with a population that's less than 22,000 people, but nevertheless has a highly concentrated population which is close to 70% black, and a police department that only has 3 black officers out of 53, along with a police chief who worships the Confederacy. And the closest comparison I can think of to Ferguson is one of the black townships of South Africa, like Soweto, especially when there was apartheid, legal apartheid. So when we pulled together our delegation to Ferguson, really within a 48-hour time span, we really had 2 objectives in mind. One, to get a first-hand look at the movement, both in the community, but also the political movement, to see what people were thinking about the current stage of getting this killer cop indicted. And second, to extend a hand of solidarity to the struggle there in a visible but low-key way. So with that sort of introduction, I just want to make 2 points, and then I'll let the rest of the delegation speak. One is that the anti-racist solidarity for the Ferguson struggle was very impressive, while still being a work in progress. If you have a Facebook page, you should go to John Parker's Facebook page, where he has posted interviews that he did at a mosque that serves as a soup kitchen in Ferguson and is run by a Pakistani immigrant activist, Abdul Saeed. And John met Abdul at one of the first protests that we attended, and he saw our resistance is justified from Ferguson to Gaza, and he happened to be wearing a pro-Gaza t-shirt. Telesur had a media person there, Francesca Emanuel, who was so friendly and helpful in getting John to mosque to do interviews, and I think Leland was the first person of our delegation to meet her. And I also want to give a special mention to a white woman that Leland and I met after the NAACP march, along with her 3 children who happened to be African American. And she was carrying a handmade sign just down the sidewalk, with her children, that said, quote, "White people support the Brown family," end quote. It was such a powerful message, especially after she told us that her family, her extended family, supports the cop that murdered Michael Brown, and that she felt so strongly that she had to take an anti-racist stand despite being ostracized by her family, which is really a revolutionary act on her part. And then there is the Safe House, led by the Coalition of Black Organizations, as Daruba was talking about, that has created a safe haven for the Ferguson community and their political supporters, especially those attacked by the police. It is really an awesome support network that doesn't try to take the lead away from the community in the struggle there, but they are there to support and give aid with their resources. And I think Daruba, it was so amazing, and we were able to attend a couple of the orientations that they had before going out on the protest. And they were explaining how to use keep the tear gas from burning your eyes out, and the legal aid and everything like that. It was really very inspiring. And then finally, I just want to talk about really what was, for me, the most inspiring part of the trip. And that was talking to and listening to the black youth who are literally in fear of their lives whenever they step out on the streets due to the potential police terror. Their words, I think, spoke for themselves. But I just want to reiterate that because of their courage and defiance against this police terror, their actions have helped to generalize the racist militarization of the police on a higher level. And I want to encourage comrades to read Comrade Larry Hales' article about this racist militarization. And as you can see from the interviews, they not only talked about what happened to Michael Brown could have easily happened to them, but they also made the connections to the need for good paying jobs, recreation centers, and not arming the police with high-tech weaponry. And what Robert talked about in terms of having a national march on Ferguson, that was his idea. I mean, this is a 20-year-old, who's still looking for a job and just trying to survive. And these youths understand better than anyone, without reading a lot of Marxist theory, that the system is anti-people of color, and that the system is their enemy. And also, the Ferguson uprising has forced the big business media to elevate other police murders, like John Crawford III, who was killed in a Walmart in Ohio. There's Eric Gardner, of course, in Staten Island, Ezell Ford in Los Angeles, and then there was 23-year-old Kajami Powell, who was shot 9 times, 10 days after Michael Brown was killed. And this was videotaped, and not one police officer has been arrested for this. This struggle has also re-raised the cases of Trayvon Martin and Sean Bell, when the mothers of these 2 murdered young men offered their love and sympathy to Michael Brown's mother, especially during the funeral of Michael Brown. And it should be acknowledged, which is very interesting, that several union leaders have made progressive statements calling for justice for Michael Brown. And this is the postal workers, I believe, and also the telephone workers from CWA, and I think another one too. But anyway, it's really, really impacting across all of the different movements in this society, what happened in Ferguson because of the rebellion. So comrades and friends, we have to keep monitoring the situation in Ferguson, including figuring out ways to broaden the solidarity, and at the same time be prepared for when the rebellion against police brutality is not only localized here and there, but nationally. Whether it comes sooner or later, it will come, and we want to assist oppressed peoples everywhere to help make it the worst nightmare for the 1% and their rotten capitalist system. Long live the Ferguson Rebellion. I had 200 of these papers delivered to Ferguson, thanks to Sharon E. and Rosie, and they got there on time. And it was really important to have the paper there for so many reasons. First of all, it helped to sort of break the ice with a number of people that we were talking to, but also this politically, I think we're the only ones that had a headline saying this was an uprising that I could see from other left press. I think the RCP had their paper there, maybe Socialist Alternative. But anyway, and then when we had this picture here, and some of the youth recognized people in the photo. So it was like, oh, I know that person. I know that person. So anyway, it was really great having the paper there. And we did it in a very low-key way because we didn't want to, you know, come in like, you know, gangbusters. But we tried to start relationships and discussions with people, and then we would get the paper out in a very strategic manner. And of course we left it at different places like the Safe House and other places as well. So I wanted just to mention that. And I just wanted to pick up on a point on what Leland said, what she ended her talk with about this being a game changer. And that, you know, we could talk about what that means all night long. I mean, when we first set foot in Ferguson, just as an example, and we went to get a rental car, and the young man that was at the at the budget rental car place, and he said, well, you know, where are you going? And we said Ferguson. He says, Ferguson, you're going to Ferguson? I've been at the protest at Ferguson, you know, and I've done this and I saw this, and I'm going to give you a cheap car. Which he did. We got this car that Amani put up on Facebook and called it Sully. But anyway, it was, I mean, that's the type of response that we got from day one, not even an hour getting into Ferguson. I just wanted, I thought that was really great. And also, how many people have heard of the Huey Newton Gun Club in East Texas? Another game changer. You know, this was up on on Twitter. The fact that, you know, really it's sort of an outgrowth of the Black Panther Party, you know, which always promoted the right to self-defense. And they walked in to this place where these cops eat, you know, all the time with guns, you know, defending their Second Amendment right to bear arms. I mean, this is really, I mean, this is because of Ferguson. I know it's because of Ferguson. It's just an amazing situation, and I just wanted to talk a little bit too about what happened in Staten Island with the attack on the teachers union by the cops. We have to remember too that these teachers, they teach Black and Latino kids who are under scrutiny of the cops day in and day out. So a lot of these teachers, they know what's going on with these students. And also along with that, you know, are the cutbacks too, you know, to education and so forth. So this is going to help raise their consciousness in terms of what is the real role of the police in society. And I agree with Steve Millies. I think we really need to, and we can do this as Workers' World too. We can talk about the role of the state, whether it's oppressed youth or whether it's workers on the picket line, because we know the police are not going to go after, you know, the bosses. They're going to go after the workers, especially if they're out there protesting and fighting for better wages and, you know, better working conditions. The cops go after the workers on the picket line. So we can make those connections. And also what this case has shown, Michael Brown, you know, and of course Trayvon Martin helped to lay the basis for this. Trayvon Martin's killing and the acquittal of George Zimmerman helped to expose, again, the role of the police in protecting Zimmerman. Look how long it took for him to be arrested, and because the bourgeoisie was afraid of the mass rebellions that were sure to come if Zimmerman wasn't arrested. But then when he got off, that exposed the role of the courts as well. And so this thing in Ferguson has raised it to a whole new level, because these youth have not only exposed the role of the police, but the militarization of the police. The militarization of the police. They've shown that we have nothing to lose and everything to gain. They have nothing to lose. And the fact is that we were told by some of the youth, like Robert and others, that this rebellion has helped to unify the Black youth. there's the Bloods and the Crips in Ferguson, and they have come together. They have come together. They have united against the police. We heard this time and time again while we were there. So anyway, so this is another reason why the police and this, the state and the ruling class, well, they want to break up this unity with as much police violence and intimidation as they can. So I really want to emphasize that we do need, I'm so glad that we're going to be raising, Ferguson, Gaza, Staten Island, on the World Business Forum demonstration. We should raise it the climate change demonstration. We should raise it everywhere, because the last point I wanted to make is that there's a grand jury now that's meeting about whether Darren Wilson is going to be indicted or not. There are 9 whites and 3 black people on that grand jury. I mean, that's already just a disgraceful, that's disgraceful. And so they want to wait. They want to drag this out. They're talking about October, that they're going to have a ruling and so forth, and they're really hoping that the struggle is going to die out. But I really think it's not going to die out. I think people are going to be monitoring. They're going to keep protesting, and they're waiting to see what's going to happen with that grand jury. So we have to be ready, especially if they're going to let this cop off, which they're going to really try their best to do. Because cops don't get indicted for killing oppressed people. They don't get indicted because they're above the law. They're alienated from society as a whole. So we have to really monitor that and just be ready. And I just think in the meantime we should put out popular literature, to the masses, to the workers, to the youth about the significance of Ferguson. And also the role that the police play in society, because people are seeing it more and more, and we have to help make the connections as much as we can, to our class on this issue. That's it.